Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the United Front Football Podcast with me and Mr. Breezy. It's been a week or two since we did the last one, but we've waited until the end of the group stages of the Euros so we can really get stuck into everything we've seen. It might have been a bit reactionary after the first game or two of England. We'll just watch the third England game to kind of really start sticking the boot in. But maybe it wouldn't have been.
There might be like an air of positivity. It's positivity tonight, but no.
Yeah, we were hoping for it, and they were dashed. But as to be expected, really. But yes, so we'll get into that eventually. We've obviously got the Euros to cover and a few things like that. But we will start, as we always do, with our questions from the audience. We put a tweet out earlier. People have replied. And if you want to get involved with the podcast, make sure you're following on the socials. Our Twitter hasn't been hacked like everyone else's has in the world yet, so
come on.
I think you can still get in touch with us through there without having to give us your credit card details. So we'll start off with George.
That's also fine.
Oh,
I throw that out there. We're not going to force you to, but if you want to just hand over your money, go for it. So.
I love money. We will start out with Jord. I think he's aimed something at me, so we'll take this. He goes, biggest disappointment at the Euros, me using it as an excuse to not stream because the Euros is on. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Not watch 18 hours of football a day? I mean, that's my schedule's been all over the place recently, but now now the Euros have settled down a little bit. I'm aiming to get back to it. And he's predicted winners, Spain to win the whole thing. Like, we will go into our kind of predicted winners a little bit later on. But how are you feeling with his shout of Spain? Like, they've been one of the more impressive teams. Obviously, only in quotation marks the 1-0 win for them in their third group game. But two really impressive performances with that was a fully rotated squad pretty much in the third game. Two really impressive performances. We're seeing Williams and what's the other wing lad called now?
Lamine Yamal.
That's the one. How did I forget his name?
Yeah,
that FM Wonder kid. Yeah, they've absolutely been tearing teams apart. It's a slightly different kind of mode of play, a little bit more direct, a lot more incisive. Like, they're happy to play quickly through the lines rather than just recycle it for the sake of recycling's sake. They've definitely been one of the teams I've been most impressed with anyway.
Yeah, there was a team that I never really I thought would have a good tournament going into it. I never really put down as like potential winners though. Just when I look at the Spain squad overall, they've got a lot of really good technical midfielders who can obviously, like you say, loads of like chance creation and different options in there that you can use. But I never the one thing that I always felt they were going to struggle with was scoring goals. Hasn't really been a huge issue for them. Like, obviously, got a good win against Croatia in the first game. Although I do think there was an element of fortune, given that just Croatia were just very open defensively, and I think any team that played Croatia in that first game, apart from maybe England, would have could have put three past them. Defensively, they look okay. Again, Croatia caused them quite a few problems. I was surprised they didn't actually concede in that game, to be honest. But again, I think that probably speaks more about Croatia's firepower than anything else. But look, it's regardless of all that, it's been a really good start for them, and it's definitely something that they can build on going into the tournament. It's just whether or not they've got enough goals in them in the really tight games to make the difference. But I will say as well, Nico Williams, not the Nottingham Forest right back, brother of Inaki Williams, has been a real standout so far. I know like Lamine Yamal's getting a lot of the headlines, but I think Williams is having a storm of a tournament so far.
Especially that second game, he was almost unplayable. Fantastic. But yeah, I agree. Like, in previous tournaments as well, they've been a little bit too set in their ways of like possession first and, like stagnant in front of goal and stuff. But I think that with the extra bit of tempo and pace, and maybe it's just a bit of youthful exuberance up front as well. But they just seem to have a bit more of an incisive edge. So no doubt they'll get knocked out in the last 16 and I'll look like a fool. But
yeah, well, what they say is not how you start, it's how you finish.
Exactly. But, yeah. We're just clinging on to that as England supporters.
Yeah, really digging my nails into that one. I've got a big one coming up to read out. So if you want to take the next one from Dave.
Yeah. So we've got Dave has got in touch. He said, biggest disappointment, Scotland for being so Scotland. It had most Scots, including himself, being like, are you actually fucking serious? Don't know whether that's just disappointment or acceptance. we'll kind of go a bit more into Scotland with Keeney's essay that he sent you. He's put predicted winners, host to win. Again, like Germany, I think have looked pretty impressive. They kind of had a really good first game, obviously against the Scots, but it's against the Scots. Rolled off a little bit in the performances since, but I mean, with the quality and depth they've got in that squad, like the subs that they're bringing on are just incredible. Like they've probably got the strongest bench, other than England, arguably. Like England have got like in terms of attacking options. So like some of the options that are coming off the bench that are really impressive and can change a game. And in theory, England have got that. Whether they get on the pitch and have the license to do that. Yeah, like they've got game changers, but yeah, I could see them going through. Obviously, Spain and Germany are in the same side of the draw now, so only one of those is going to get to the final.
Yeah, and Germany were another one similar to Spain for me, where I looked for their squads and it was like got so many good defenders, so many good midfielders. I don't see a goal scorer, and obviously I know Kai Havertz sort of led the line, and even though he's not been prolific, I don't know if he scored a goal yet this tournament, but I don't think that's really his role in this Germany team is to be the goal scorer. I think it's sort of link up and bring like Florian Wirtz and Jamal Musiala, who sort of have been, especially Musiala, been a lot more free scoring in that team. So I think his job's more to sort of bring them in and set chance up for them. But what they have got coming off the bench, though, like you say, someone like Nicholas Fulkrug, for example, if they are struggling to break down a side who are sort of sitting a bit deep, he's just an absolute tank, and they could just sort of throw him on. And
big meaty strike. One thing I have loved with these Euros is the resurgence of the big meaty number 9.
Oh yeah.
Loads of big lads up top.
Adam from Hungary.
I was just going to say, you've got Adam who looks like he lives out in the woods.
Yeah, big fan of him. I need him to get. I can't remember. Did Hungary get? Yeah, Hungary got through, didn't they? So yeah, we need an Adam goal at least once in this Euros. I feel because he's like, it's just I feel like everyone likes that moment if he does get a goal. But yeah, as you mentioned with Scotland, Keeney, long-term listener of the pod, has sent in. He basically messaged me on Twitter being like, "I've got too much to say. Can I email you?" It's like, yeah, sure.
There's a word limit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people do want to email sort of things into us. It is unitedfrontpod@gmail.com. If you want to send in your football-related stories or just rants or anything like that, we'll be sure to try and cover it. It is quite long, so I'll try and, in the interest of time, summarise it as best I can. By saying, "Good evening, gentlemen. Scotland have been Scotland, from the press to the fans to the manager and then the players. Talks about pre-tournament. There was always narrative about good chance to beat a poor Germany side. Press's words, not the fans." And a bit of optimism going into Switzerland and Hungary to get them into the knockout stages for the first time. Obviously, I've had injuries going into it. Aaron Hickey, Patterson, Lewis Ferguson, most notably, and then obviously Lyndon Dykes being unavailable going into the tournament. Germany game, I think as Keeney says, it was just if they just got outclassed and outdone. But I think where Keeney's main issue lies is the Switzerland game. It was a case of must not lose rather than go for the win. Which is our manager specialises in. Lost Kieran Tierney during that game, which was a huge blow, and then Clark waited until 90th minutes to bring a 30-goal season striker off the bench and hope to nick something. And then against Hungary, he says the manager made an arse of it. It was a must win, but he stuck with his 5 at the back formation that only plays because he has a fit Tierney Robertson in the squad. With no Tierney, it was the chance to go 4 at the back, but he stuck to his pragmatic view and played not to lose. Robertson going off struggling. We have a natural left back on the bench, but chooses the right-footed English-based midfielder, Kenny McLean, to come on. He then puts a left-footed Ryan Christie to play on the right, rather than a right-footed winger, James Forrest. Then as only Scotland do, he fucks up in the 100th minute. Steve Clarke should be sacked. His stubbornness or unwillingness to change formation to get us goals we need is a disgrace. He's managing Scotland like he managed Kilmarnock. As long as they don't lose, it's a good result. When you need to win, can't keep playing the same way. Captain can't defend, can't attack, delivery is poor, but he gets a game because he plays for Liverpool. We should be playing players on form, not based on who they play their club football for. Apart from shite, Scotland and England as well haven't been brilliant, but the tournament as a whole has been great, and I think Spain might go all the way. Keep up the good work, lads. Keeley. So yeah, he's not happy with Steve Clarke.
I didn't get that. he does raise a few really good points though. Like, and I'll start like with the way that they're set up. Fair enough. Like in the first, the game against Germany, it went to pot as soon as they went out of 10 men. Like at that point, you've kind of got to go. Let's just try and get through the game, and we'll deal with the next one. From there though, he's right. Like against Switzerland, Switzerland have got some good players, but Scotland have got some decent players as well, and it seemed like they didn't trust their good players to influence a game. I was watching it, and it was every pass was backwards and sideways, until it got to a centre back, and then they just oof it into a channel and hope they could get a second ball. And it was that the entire time whenever they got the ball. And it was more of the same in the final game as well. Like, I think I tweeted out, like, it's the fact that they didn't get a penalty isn't the big talking point there. Like, obviously it's a talking point. It was a penalty. They should have had a penalty.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe if they got that, then they'd have had maybe got 4 points if they didn't concede. The issue is that in a must-win game, like he says, he goes out pragmatic, but you can play 5 at the back and be a bit more front foot. Playing 5 at the back isn't necessarily like a negative all the time. But only having 4 shots in a game that is a must-win game and not looking like you're trying anything to create any chances, that is an issue. It's not like they've got 3 points coming into the game and 3 points might be enough. It's not like they're trying to get the 4th point. You know, that they need to win that game. And so you need to go in there like and have some chances. Take shots, take some pot shots. You might get a corner, you might get a lucky deflection, you might get a handball. Who knows? Like, but to only have 4 shots, and I think one of them was like only in the like the 5th shot. I think it was in the like after the 90th minute. It's like what are you doing? Like one of the issues is I think. I don't know whether it's the same in Scotland and the way the media pushes it, but especially down in England, it's almost like, oh, look how happy they are to just be here. It's like, look, they're here, they're having a great time. It's like, well, no, like, surely if you're here, they've got players who play for big clubs. And I know he says, like, you shouldn't be picked on, you know, the clubs you play for, but players in that team play for big clubs with big expectations and a lot of pressure. They can handle this pressure. It looks like he didn't trust them to do any of that. And, yeah, they just kind of went out there scared, really. And I thought it was incredibly ironic and hilarious that David Moyes was complaining that they weren't attacking enough.
Yeah, he said that. He said something along the lines of like, "I've not really been there's not really been entertaining to watch." And I was like, "You are fucking joking."
I can hear you screaming from here, mate.
How dare you? I totally agree with the mentality thing, and I said this on Twitter. I think it was after the Switzerland game. I think it was like. Essentially, I don't think Scotland are ever going to do well in a tournament unless they get over this whole, like you say, sort of mindset of just like qualified. That's enough. Yeah. Like we've got something to do this summer. Fantastic.
Look at Slovenia, like tonight. Like Scotland are a better team with better players than Slovenia. Slovenia got some good players and they played really well, but they were given the license to play well. They were like played on the front foot. Maybe not so much today. But in previous games, they played on the front foot. They allowed their players to create chances. They weren't scared of the ball, and Scotland are just scared.
But you look at other nations as well, not just Slovenia, like Georgia, Albania, Romania, like all these teams who are you would look at and expect to pick up no points. They have got into the games. Yes, they've been pragmatic, but they've you can tell when they get the ball, there is a plan there and a sort of willingness to right. We've got a chance to attack now. Let's try and get the ball in the back of the net. Whereas, and one thing you're not seeing is, like I saw in the first game against Germany, which I thought rang alarm bells. Like Kieran Tierney wins a goal kick in the 3rd minute and starts celebrating. Like this is like you say. I know in terms of the quality of difference between Scotland and Germany, like there is a big golfing class, but this isn't like a National League club playing away at Old Trafford. Like ultimately, like you say, they've got a good selection of players there, and especially against Switzerland, Hungary should have done more. And I do think there needs to be a sort of a mentality check now because. If I was a Scottish fan, I'd be fuming because you look at the teams they beat to get to this tournament. Like they beat Spain, had some really good results against Norway. They beat a few others. I'm pretty sure I can't remember off the top of my head, but they had some really good results coming into qualifying, especially the Spain results. And it just you look at trending performances in the tournament in the 3 games they've had, and just go, well, why did you bother? If you're just gonna turn up and all anyone talks about Scotland in a positive light is fans are great singing an anthem, no. Like it's just patronising, and I'm sure
that you know.
Yeah, well, like I think it was Euro 2012. I think when Republic of Ireland last qualified, and I think Roy Keane said a similar thing, going, "Oh yeah, it's all well and good, talking about how good the fans were singing and stuff, but like the players were crap. So what is that? Not going to get us any points, is it? So
that's why you left the World Cup, wasn't it? Like he was like, none of this is good enough. Like what? We're just there. Are we just there for a jolly? I'm going home. Like I'm here to try and win. Like.
Yeah, so I think I can definitely understand the frustration of Scotland fans, and I follow quite a few. And to be fair, like across the fan base that I saw anyway, you can tell that frustration is there, and it would be I do think a change of manager is probably needed in that sense. The only downside for Scotland fans is it's probably going to be David Moyes, who's probably most likely to take it. But then even he's got more Nelson experience in knockout tournament football than Steve Clarke has now. And you'd expect, even David Moyes, you'd expect to go for it a little bit more rather than, like you say, just hoofing it up to Che Adams in the hope that something will drop for someone when it never did and never looked like doing so.
Yeah, it was a frustrating watch and more like I've got a lot of Scots in my Discord and the regulars to both of our channels really like that. We were kind of like vicariously watching, and it's always fun to meme and take the piss out of Scotland and stuff. But I wanted them to see it go through at the knockouts, for the first time ever, and just watching it's like, what are they even trying? Like, I tweeted out, I think they may be the worst set up and coach team in the Euros, and I wasn't saying that just as a joke. Like, and I'd watched every game in the Euros to that point. I think I've watched every game so far. God knows. But yeah, like, and it is just, it's dire, and it's a close fought one between them and England, though. But
it really is.
We will get into that.
Right. Well, I mean, so from covering Scotland, I guess let's go into the next home nation disappointment. We said it leads us nicely into Howie Wright Owen, who has come in talking about England. So he said his biggest disappointment is definitely English fans booing a team that is undefeated and through to the second round. England's biggest issue is in the stands and the press box. Fans don't know what they want. Everyone said they wanted to see changes and something new. I'm guessing in Southgate, still gets booed. A couple months ago, every fan and pundit wanted Trent in midfield. Harry Maguire dropped and some new blood in the squad. Gareth tried it in a relatively safe group to test it, and he'll take his learnings into the knockouts. I still have England down as winning this. It's a take.
He can't have watched any of the games, can he? I mean, let's be honest. Like, because the issue isn't like that England fans don't know what they want. They do know what they want, and it's not like it's a bit of just impetus. And it's been there was a few friendlies like towards the back end of last year and like the international breaks last year. And just a few internationals. I think there might have been the qualifiers. Obviously, we had a really good performance against Italy as well. Like, played a few. It was like, oh, these are the green. Like, we're looking a bit more on the front foot. Like, these players are kind of playing a bit more to their ability. And then it comes to like coming towards a tournament, and it's the same thing again. Goal up, sit back. Like, everyone looks scared to play. Everyone looks like they look like they're being told not to express themselves, which I think is the big thing. And if that's not the case, then it is a mentality thing. And I thought that the whole thing that Gareth had changed was the mentality. So if he's not changed that, if the whole thing he was supposed to be good at doing isn't working, then what's he doing? I think that's the issue. And to say, yeah, they've topped the group. Yeah, in the worst group against probably the easiest group of the Euros. And we see teams like tonight. For anyone wondering why we're wearing different clothes, we had to come back the next day because there was some technical issues. We've just watched Georgia beat one of the tournament favourites in Portugal, playing really good football. We've seen some really good football from like unfavoured nations, and we've got a team like England where we've got legitimately, and this isn't like just hyperbole, some of the best players in Europe in the world. Like, you've got Jude Bellingham there, who's being touted for the Ballon d'Or. If England win the Euros, and on good merit, you've got the best player in the Premier League in Phil Foden, you've got the best goal scorer in Europe in Harry Kane, you've got seasoned internationals all playing for massive teams with massive pressure, and they're turning up against a weak Denmark side and looking scared on the edge of the box. It's like, what are they doing? That's the frustration. It's not that England fans don't know what they want. It's not that they want X, Y, and Z and things like that. It's just like, just play like you play for your clubs. And I understand it's not always like for like. It's not the same system. It's not the same, the same players you play next to. But it's better than what we're seeing.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with any of that. I guess I'll offer up a different perspective then. I guess as we've touched on the groups and the performances. We'll go a little bit more in depth, sort of review the group as a whole. I think from my perspective, and anyone who sort of listened to me like in streams or on Twitter over the last, pretty much throughout the entirety of Southgate's reign, I think it's fair to say I've been one of his bigger defenders in sort of like, let's say like the FM community, for example, like, where we sort of follow a lot of people there.
I mean, me and you are on pretty much diametric different ends of the opinion on Southgate.
It's the one thing we've always, we're pretty aligned with most things. The Southgate thing is the one thing we've always really sort of disagreed on. I think I do think Southgate in previous tournaments prior to the 2018 World Cup, really, I felt at times from certain sections of the fan bases had criticism that I feel has gone a bit over the top. Like, I've always admitted and accepted, yeah, his in-game management isn't the best. He takes too long to make substitutions, and he has struggled in games where the sort of tide turns and the other team wrestles back control, and he sort of struggled how to counter that. I think they're all fair criticisms. But ultimately, I think in World Cup 2018, picking up after the mess that Hodgson left and Allardyce and everything, to get that group of players to a World Cup semi-final, albeit with a favourable run, is still better than what other England managers done in the past. Euro 2020, whilst the performances in the groups weren't that inspiring or fun to watch, there was an element of control, and it was also effective for what we need to be. And we obviously got to the final, and the final happened. And I actually think he had his best tournament in the last tournament in the World Cup, where we were, pretty free scoring in the groups, battered Senegal in the round of 16, wherever it was, and then pretty much, I think, matched France for most of the game. And it's just one of them where it just didn't go in our favour on the day, obviously with the penalty miss and everything. It's just the way it goes sometimes. So I was, I've with all that said in mind, though, I went into this tournament with, right, I'm just tournament by tournament basis. Let's see how it goes. And all this talk leading into it, not just from Southgate, of talking about we're going to be more attacking, we're going to be more on the front foot. You've got Harry Kane doing interviews for the tournament saying, yeah, we feel like this is the group that can go on and win it and go all the way this time. So when you have all that coming from the manager and the captain and players in the squad talking about how good they are, to turn up in the manner they have done in these first three games, fans have every right to be annoyed. I'm annoyed by it. There's only so many excuses you can make, and this is coming from me. Like, when it comes to Southgate in England, like Serbia, sure, first game of the groups, most important thing is getting the win. You can accept that, but the warning signs were there. So that when you go into the Denmark game and it plays out not even the same, worse. I thought the Denmark performance is the worst we've played so far in this tournament. We were lucky to come away with a draw. Like you said, it was a team.
I think England against Denmark is one of the worst performances by any nation. It's like, in terms of
I would agree.
The quality of the players that are available there, like just the underperformance and complete. It wasn't just players playing badly, and they were playing badly. Like, they were missing 5-10 yard passes and not looking at all confident, but also just like zero influence on the game. Like, it was they looked terrified the entire game.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say they just look scared, and it's like there's a fear of failure there. And I think when you talk about Southgate and the sort of mentality he's instilled, I don't necessarily think he's instilled a winning mentality, or he's maybe I think what he probably has done is shielded the players a little bit better from the press. But then this is the first time, really, because I don't think. I know some people probably had us down as favourites going into the last World Cup. I never really viewed us as that. I don't think we were outright favourites from the beginning of the last Euros. I think we started to become favourites as it went on, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But this one, it feels like for the first time under Southgate, we've gone into a tournament as one of the expected favourites to go and win the tournament, because, as you say, because of the squad of players we got. And it just looks like that is getting to them. Not just the players, but Southgate as well. And we can talk about the pressure from the press and all this sort of thing. Like, the fact we've all been hearing for a week is Harry Kane and Declan Rice and Southgate coming back up against, like, the likes of Gary Lineker and Alan Shearer, just because they dare to say, you're not playing as well as we know you can. It's not like they're getting, just baseless sort of TalkSport level of criticism like someone like Simon Jordan might do. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's actual, if you listen to what Gary Lineker and Alan Shearer are saying, as strikers, especially around Harry Kane's game, it's constructive. Like, they're saying, this is what he's not doing well enough, and this is what he needs to do to improve. And same with other players in the squad. And same with Southgate's team selection and squad selection now, which is being exposed a little bit. So it's not. I don't even think they're getting taking a battering off the press or anything. It's all everyone is saying the same thing. Like, you speak to everyone about England's problems in this tournament, it is the same thing. It's disjointed. The squad selection's wrong, and there's an imbalance within the starting 11, and they're sitting too deep. So if everyone's saying the same thing, there's got to be something to that.
And not only that, it's not. Like, there's been some quotes, and some players have said, "Oh, we're getting a hammering more than any other team." It's like, well, you're not. Like literally, look at any other England team in any performance and getting knocked. Look at South Africa. Look at getting knocked out by Iceland. Look at '98. Like, they were personal attacks, like personally attacking managers, personally attacking players. This isn't personal attacks. This is people going. This is pundits and ex-pros going, why aren't these players playing as well as they can? We've seen how good they are. This is why we think this is an issue. And they're all recoiling in horror, like with, we've just set fire to their dog. Like, it's like, oh, we're being attacked. We can't take this. It's like, okay, well, how entitled are you going to be then? Like, if you just think you can turn up and beat nations like this, no, you got to work. And you see players who are world-class players just either not doing as instructed, if you're going to go off what was said after the first couple of games by players.
Yeah, that was very concerning.
They're either not doing what they're told, or they're being told not to do certain stuff. Because, like, if Phil Foden's being played out on the left, he will not be being told to just drift around all the pitch and do what he wants, because we need to hold some width. So he's either being told to do that and he's not doing it, or he's not being told to do it. So which one is it? At some point, it's either the player or the manager. Seeing how Phil Foden will do whatever he's told by his manager at club level, and a lot of these players work well in systems and slightly changing systems, not always like as chalk and cheese as international football to club football, but they will adapt. I've seen all of these players playing different roles in different systems and change how they need to approach a game on game-to-game basis. And they all look like they're just being told, like, slapped on the back, going, "Go out, have some fun."
Yeah.
But don't forget, you've got to win.
Yeah.
And if you don't win, then I'm good. Like, then all the pressure's on you. Like, there just doesn't seem to be, like you said, lack of cohesion and glaring holes in the system. And at the end of the day, you've just got to put that down to the manager, really. And kind of going back to what you were saying a bit previous, is like, I know I've been very critical of Southgate, and it's never been a case of I don't think he's done a good job so far, or like up to where he'd done. It's just always been a case of, if we had someone who had a bit more tactical nous, like, he could have got over those kind of bumps and got over those humps. And and I thought at the last World Cup, when it came up against France, and it was the late changes. It was bringing on your top scorer with 4 minutes to go in Marcus Rashford. It was the starting Raheem Sterling who'd been back at home all week because he'd just been robbed. Like, it's like things like that. It's like someone else has got to do better with this group of players, because look how good they are against probably one of the best teams in the world. Well, the best team, they got to the World Cup final, right? They arguably should have won it. But maybe someone else would do better with it. But I can totally see it from your side of like, well, this time he's got another tournament under his belt. Maybe he'll be a bit better. But it's regressed to worse than before he took over. Like, some of these performances have been the worst ones I've personally watched that I can remember since the Iceland game. Like, it's been really, really bad.
I think that's the thing. I think whilst, like I say, with Italy in the Euros final, with France in that game, I can totally take those criticisms on board. And one thing I would always come back with and say with stuff like that is, like, I feel like Southgate always has a setback in a tournament, but usually the next time round, he takes something from it and England improve on that. So again, going from the Euro 2020 or 2021 into the World Cup, I felt like England were a lot more on the front foot and were taking the game, with the exception of the USA game, which was just a typical Southgate, let's just get a point in the second game type of deal. But for the most part, it felt like we weren't as much on the back, we weren't as much sort of comfortable just sort of holding a lead or anything. It was actually, no, let's go and be a bit more free scoring and stuff. So my thought was, okay, you've nearly got it. I say with the France game, I say with just one more change a little bit earlier, you probably would have got through. So take it into this Euros where, less teams, and obviously I think there's probably the overall talent across all the teams is probably a little bit more even in the Euros as compared to the World Cup. But in theory, you will still also be a lot stronger than some of the smaller nations that are in the tournament. So it's like, take that and you can go all the way, and you'll give yourself a great chance of winning it. But it's like you said, I said it on Twitter the other day. Going back to like the last Euros as an example, right? I understand why people said it was boring, because it wasn't, especially the group stages weren't fun to watch. But at least it was effective. Like, and we never looked, whilst it wasn't free flowing, entertaining football. During the groups, I never really felt worried. Do you know, like, whenever the other team had the ball, it was like, yeah, we've got this. We're defending well. They're having no chances, and every time we go forward, we look like we're going to make something happen. Against Denmark, we're fortunate we did. We're fortunate we only came away with a draw, because I thought they were knocking on the door quite a lot as the game went on. And same with Serbia. The fact we came away with 3 points in that game, I thought was incredibly fortunate, given that they were just peppering us. I know Pickford didn't have sort of obvious standout saves to make, but like, our defence was under pressure for way too long than they should have been. And it's ironic, really, going into the tournament that everyone thought that our defence was the weakest part, and that's actually been the bit that's actually been the one part of the team that's actually come out and been somewhat impressive. Like Mark Gahey, I think is so far the only one that can come out with any real sort of credit from who's played so far, who's started all the games.
Consistency, yeah. Like I think Saka's been good in spots.
Yeah,
because he's basically been the only like consistent attacking threat we've got. But he came in with a bit of a knock, didn't he? He doesn't like he's not making it through full games. Jude Bellingham was good for like an hour in the first game, and he's just had 2 absolute stinkers. Phil Foden was all right for about half an hour the last game, but like not really affecting the game. And it's just there's just no multitude of threats. It's just a load of players who all want the ball into the feet in the same area. You've got like 5 playmakers, people who want the ball and want to turn and create something. And they're turning around and looking at 4 other players who want to get the ball at the feet and create something. Just like I don't want this to descend into, what's your starting 11 going to be? Because honest to God, that is doing my nutting. The amount of tweets and YouTube videos and podcasts and phone-ins, and all it is, well, what I'd do is I'd start Anthony Gordon and it just devolves into that. So, well, it doesn't matter. Like, we've all got our preferred thing, and the vast majority of opinions agree. There needs to be a little bit of threat in behind, a bit of a direct threat. But, like, just incessantly, like, it's been like 10 days of just phone-ins and podcasts of people going, well, why isn't he starting this? He should be starting this. He should be starting this. It's like, because obviously he doesn't think that that's the answer. I don't know what he does think the answer is, because he started out with a right back in midfield, then brought in probably the worst guy to bring. Not that I think Conor Gallagher's a bad player, but just not what we needed in there.
No.
And then, like, all I can hope is that seeing the impact that the subs made, even though, again, to another point, we're way too late, made coming off the bench in the last game, because I think Kobe Mainoo came on at half-time, and whilst it wasn't like a Gascoigne against Scotland type performance, I thought he knitted things nicely around in midfield. He can beat the press with a bit of a dribble. He links things up nicely. He's decent in defence. Like, he's a nice foil for Rice. I thought Anthony Gordon, even though he was on for like 3 minutes, did more on that left wing than we've seen in the previous 3.9 games. That's 2.9 games.
He was on the pitch and we created our best chance of the entire game. I know Slovenia had sort of opened up a little bit, but like Harry Kane found space to work in, and obviously had that chance for Cole Palmer. Like, I'm the same as you. Like, I'm bored of the like you say, this is what I would do, this is what I would do. Because like the thing is as well, it's a lot of the time it's just people wanting their club's players in the team, so it's kind of difficult to like. So it's like, of course, all the Chelsea fans want Cole Palmer in, all the West Ham fans want Jarrod Bowen in. Like, it's difficult to take it seriously without because it's like, well, obviously it's you just got ulterior motives. You don't care how like what's best for the team. You just want your guy in there.
My only concern with the Cole Palmer thing is if he reads it and it's like, okay, well, we'll bring Cole Palmer in for Saka. Like, you'd bring in another one of those guys, because as great as he is at creating and stuff, he's another Phil Foden. He's another Harry Kane. He's another one of those kind of players. And all you're doing is he'd be just stacking up that area in the middle of the park where everybody wants it in their feet and create. Because he's not a Bowen. He's not an Ollie Watkins. He's not a Gordon who's going to run in behind and cause some threats. And even just like, a more balanced defense. Like, I think one of the big things is that's going to be telling from coming out of this, it's going to be like a bit of something to hang Southgate with, is putting all your eggs in the Luke Shaw's going to be fit basket. And being a Man United fan, I know that basket has got holes in it. It's like coming in, like, just to even have someone like a left-sided defender, like a Levi Colwill or something, just someone who's naturally a bit more comfortable on the left foot, who can play out there. I know Trippier can do a job there, but it is doing a job. He never really plays. The only time he really plays at left back is for England, or like if there's an absolute crisis in injuries elsewhere. He's always been a right back, always been a right wing back. He can just kind of do it there, and to come in with him being your number one left back, that's going to be something that he gets hung out to dry with, because there are loads of options. They're not to the level of a Luke Shaw, but players who can be effective down that left hand side. Even, dare I say, Chilwell. Like, I know he was really poor in those last couple of friendlies. He's had a really poor season, but he's still like that's his
Needs must,
position.
right?
He's a natural
Yeah.
there. So if it's a case of, even if you take him and Luke Shaw's we've got a 26-man squad. Luke Shaw's your 26th man. If he's fit, great. But you've got an actual left back. You've got Trippier who can cover there, and a Joe Gomez who can cover there. I think that's going to be one of the things that he gets beaten over the head with, because it is such a big gap in on the pitch. Like, if you want to play Foden out on that left hand side, then we need width somewhere from somewhere else, and it needs to be a flying left wing back. And Trippier, as good as he is, I really rate him. I think he's a great player, but he's not a flying left wing back.
No, it's in that for me it's unforgivable. Like, in terms of pushing, and Southgate came out and pushed for a 26-man squad, because originally it was only going to be 23, and Southgate was one of the people that said we would like 26. To not, like I say, if you want to use, like you said, you can take 26 and you can gamble on Luke Shaw. But okay, let's say I think Chilwell was injured, so I don't think he would have come. Like, even if he, maybe if he was fit, he would have called him up anyway. He probably would have done. But like, you've had Tyrick Mitchell in other squads, and sure, Tyrick Mitchell might not be. I think he's a really good left back, but he might not be the same. Like, he's not like a Champions League level left back. But needs must at the end of the day, and you see it how many times with other nations who are like you'll watch, like Germany, for example. They'll have like a fullback or a player in their team who's like, oh, this guy plays for like the team who finished 13th in the Bundesliga last season. It's like, yeah, well, he doesn't matter because he plays in that position.
Their current left back is from a mid-table side. He's been mint.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's like, I especially when Gahey's been the one playing on the left-hand side of that defence. So you've got his club teammate playing there, and you've got other Crystal Palace players in the squad that would have helped him settle. And again, but even then, it's not like he's not been in an England squad before. He's been called up. I don't know if he's had caps or anything, but to not just go, okay, for this one area of the pitch, we're going to take someone who maybe wouldn't get in one of the top clubs in the country. Like, that's fine. We've done it again. We've done it in previous tournaments. In 2002, we had Danny Mills and Trevor Sinclair as our right hand side.
Like, Jesus Christ.
But, yeah, but like at the time,
it's bad now.
Not at the, yeah, but it's like not at the time. Not maybe definitely not at the level of like a Gary Neville or a Beckham or whoever. They can come in and do a job because you've got other good players around them. So like, it's like, oh, we're going to lose the Euros because we're playing Tyrick Mitchell. We'd have been, like I said, it's a dereliction of duty from Southgate in that regards. To, like you say, to take a left back and be like, oh, he'll probably be fine for the second game, and he's had one training session with the full squad. It's unforgivable for me, and yeah, I think that not that it's going to be the only thing that costs us and the thing that ultimately costs us, but it very well could be, because you've seen in every game now, teams have figured out that unless England attack down the right hand side, we're not very good at attacking. You force us down the left, we won't create anything. And our only real joy is coming down the right hand side in all three games, because we don't have, like I say, a natural overlapping left-footed fullback to play off whoever's out there. It's insanity to me how everyone else can see it and Southgate can't.
And on top of that, like, going into that third game, because we had such a poor second game, we were through, but wanting to win the group, having to put out basically the full strength 11 again. Another team like where everyone's played a really grueling season, everyone already looks knackered, everyone's gone through another 90 minutes. We've got 3 days until the next game now. So instead of like having a bit of invention, having a bit more free flowing football, going for the jugular in that Denmark game, we should have been winning. Like, leaving too late changes. We go into that last game having to play the strongest 11. Jude Bellingham looks like he's absolutely burnt out. Like, his last 2 games have been really poor, and I don't think that's a reflection on him as a player. I think that's just a reflection of his energy levels. But so many of them look absolutely gassed. And if you go to the last game being able to give a few players the day off, like, even if it's 4 or 5 key players, have the day off, like, we'll take it easy. We're going into a game at the weekend now where everyone's already knackered against, a side that, whilst we should be beating them in theory, that like every smaller nation has been like fully at it, like loads of energy, loads of pressing, forcing issues out of bigger teams, and like this is exactly how we're going to get found out. I think
on Bellingham, I agree on him being burnt out. I thought his performance in particular against Denmark was like. I was listening to the Ramble, and they made a really good point, especially on the Denmark game. Just yes, I agree he was tired, but especially against Denmark, it felt like he went in there with just a little bit too much arrogance, if that makes sense. Like it felt like he was just like he could sort of just strut around the pitch for the entire game and do and sort of not really
too
try.
Hollywood, wasn't he? Like
too Hollywood, yeah, absolutely. And I thought he got shown up massively by Denmark's midfield. He was, can't question his work rate in the Slovenia game, but like you say, he's now knackered because we had to play him. If no disrespect to Slovakia, but the fact we are quite fortunate we got Slovakia in round of 16, I still think there is an opportunity there to make some changes to his preferred starting 11, and you could still get a result. Like you could. Phil Foden just had to go home. I think his kid's been born or something like that, or he has to go home for a family matter. So that that gives you an opportunity to give Gordon a go in training and give him a chance against Slovakia. You can take Bellingham out for one game. You're not if you take Bellingham out against Slovakia and play Cole Palmer there instead in the 10, you should still have enough quality to beat them. You know what I mean? If that give Saka a rest, because he spent 12 months having the shit kicked out of him by every fullback in the Premier League. Take him out, give him a rest, give Bowen a chance.
Take Bellingham out, and I mean we are kind of descending into what our 11 should be.
No, of course. But
you take Bellingham out and play a striker and let Kane play where he wants to, on the half turn, knocking the ball in behind. Something like that. Like, okay, well, you could phrase it as we've been forced into to have to make a few changes, but the quality of this squad, there shouldn't be an 11 that you could put out there that, in theory, and this is going to sound like arrogant English fan, but that shouldn't be able to get the win, in this round of 16.
Yeah.
After that, fair enough. Like it depends how the draw falls. I'm not too sure exactly how the draw's going to fall. But
we've got a very fortunate side of the draw.
Well,
I think Italy and Holland, in theory, are the stronger opponents that we could face. Like
it's so it's Spain, Germany, Portugal, and France are all in the other side of the draw, aren't they? So like it's we'll probably end up, if we can get that far, meeting Austria in the semis or quarters and end up getting absolutely slapped about. So
I'll say thank God we're not getting Austria in the round of 16. By the way,
yeah. I just wouldn't watch.
I think was it someone said the other day, so we played Austria, they would press us into our own goal.
Yeah.
It was very apt. Like, I don't know, I guess to end on it and maybe to inject I was going to say positivity, it's copium, let's be honest, but like it is that thing in tournament football, right? And there's plenty of examples people can trot out, and people have trotted out of, look at I think Portugal in 2016 is the team everyone points saying they were shit and they still won it. Like, and again, it's not how you start, it's how you finish and all this and the other. But the problem, and I guess that's kind of going back to Owen's point, I guess is what he's trying to get at, is like, you are in around 16, and there is still, in theory, you can get better, and we can, like you say, the players are more than good enough. So I just wonder if I don't know, if you're going to be cautious in the groups, I can't see a reason for Southgate to not also be cautious in the actual knockouts, where you can't really, you've got to minimise any risk really to have a chance of getting through. But we have done that previously. I just don't know if the damage has already been done in terms of a mental sense anyway. Like, in terms of the players' like mental state.
That'd be my worry, is that I mean, for example, like the interviews, the post-match interviews in the last few games, like Southgate looks like a rabbit in headlights. He's like visibly shaking in interviews. Like he looks terrified. Players look frustrated. I wonder how much of this, like, whether there is any kind of credence to, like, the players are being sent out with instructions and they're playing how they're being told, and they're looking at each other going, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Like, I wonder whether there is a little bit of that. So it's almost like a bit of malicious compliance. It's all right, well, we'll play how you want us to play. Like when, you want me to do this? All right, I'll do this then.
It's like you remember United under Moyes? I had the record for most crosses against Fulham. It was like, want me to cross it, do you? All right.
Shelley's 60 in a game. But
yeah, I don't know. Like, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, but like, because of the way that the players are coming out and like saying, we're not being told this, we're playing exactly how we're not being told to do this, and then like these things are happening. It's like I said earlier, it's either they're being told to do one thing and they're not doing it, or they're being told to do the thing that isn't working. So like, one thing's we'll probably never find out, or we'll find out in 20 years when someone's on a ITV panel watching the Euro 2054 or something.
Yeah, give it like 6 months after he's sacked. I imagine is when it will start coming out. Or I say sacked when he leaves, and maybe that plays a part in it as well, right? Like maybe it's pretty well known that he's off at the end of the tournament, whatever happens. It's like I know there's been these sort of rumors before, but it feels a lot more concrete that like whatever happens, he's gone. And he pretty much even said, "Oh, if we don't win it, I know I won't have a job," sort of thing. So I wonder if like the pressure, like him putting that pressure on himself, of like, well, this is my last chance. Whereas if he sort of had a guarantee of like whether people would want it or not, obviously a different conversation. But like, I'm just thinking if he had that guarantee of like, I know I've got another tournament after this to fix it, like to do anything, to do a little bit more. It was almost sort of take just a little bit more pressure off in that sense, maybe.
Maybe.
Like,
I don't think it works the same in international management as it does in club management. Though.
Yeah.
Like I think in club management, if you know the manager's going, then you're almost throwing the towel in. I think in international management, it's like, well, this is going to be his last tournament. It's like, let's go and win it for him. Like he's done so well for us previously. Like he's taken us to new heights. Like it's a better environment. Everyone's happier. Like let's go out there and give it everything to win it. And like I say, whether it's injuries, whether it's fitness, whether it's instruction, whatever it is, it's not working and it's not clicking. And like you say, the only hope or cope, as you probably put it right, is these players are better than they're playing. So hopefully they'll turn it on in the knockout rounds, and if they do, then so be it.
Yeah, and then, all I will say is he needs to, I think, take the blessing that. And again, I'm not saying this to be disrespectful to Slovakia, but like, let's be honest, if this was a qualifying game, you would. If it was like the second qualifying game in a week, you expect Southgate to make a decent amount of changes and still get the results. I think
just Tony will be starting this game,
do that.
So.
Yeah, exactly. So I think don't make 11 changes, but like my only hope would be he makes like 4 or 5, just get some fresh legs on the pitch and give himself a bit more of a headache, and I guess give him an opportunity to be a bit brave and drop some players that he's been loyal to in the past. But ultimately, I don't think that will happen. I just think we'll keep flogging the same players in every game, and if it's not tactical ineptitude that will cost us, it will be fatigue. So,
hooray!
Yeah, I will say just before we do more, it's been really funny to be watching people like watching pundits and everyone being like, shouldn't have to sit on the back foot all the time. Why are we going 1-0 up and sitting back and stuff? I'm like, oh, okay, now I see how it is. So when England do it, obviously England and West Ham very different levels of squads, obviously, but it's like. It's just funny to me that people complain about it. I'm like, I've been doing this for a year.
Yeah.
For 4 years.
Yeah, where's that criticism when it's West Ham doing it? Like, you should be careful, careful what you wish for. Like,
yeah, what do England fans want? Do you know what I
mean? Well, we've talked about England at length. I think it's fair to say. I mean, we're both English. It's most of the people who listen to this probably are as well. But we will touch on some of the other groups as well. Obviously, been some like incredible performances. Another couple of really good matches tonight. Some teams going through that nobody really expected to go through. Who saw Georgia in the round of 16? I know they got Spain, and that's going to be a hell of a game for them, but you got teams like Georgia, Slovakia, Slovenia have all made it through, along with some of the bigger names. But Turkey again they've risen above their dark horses from last time after what they absolutely failed miserably, and actually look really good, been really entertaining. But we will go over a few of the kind of the things we've witnessed. I mean, I've watched pretty much every game. I know you've watched a lot of them as well.
Yeah.
We'll go through like a few things. So, for you, who has been your biggest disappointment? Obviously, England. But like that's a given.
Yeah.
Were there any other teams where you thought I expected so much more from them this tournament?
I think probably I would. It's a difficult one because I think everyone's kind of where I'd expect them to be. Like if I did like a sort of if you did, when you do your group predictions and stuff and you do your tree predictions and whatnot, it's kind of where I thought they would be. I guess like in terms of biggest disappointment, do you know what? I actually expected a lot more from Hungary. I really did. I thought Hungary were going to be a lot better than they have been. Like there was a lot of obviously there's some really good results, notably against England. A couple of years ago, I think it was in the Nations League, and unless I'm mistaken, I believe they had a pretty comfortable time qualifying. And they've got some decent players as well. Obviously, Slobozai's the big one, but they've got players who play in some of the big clubs in Europe. I thought they were going to be a lot more front-footed and a lot less blunt than they actually were. Like I don't know, most games I watched them, they didn't really seem to pose anyone any real threat. I think they might be a case they had the dark horse curse, where a lot of people put them down as dark horses, and they were inevitably shit. So, So yeah, I'd probably go Hungary.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple for me. Like it's like you say, I think most of the teams that I expected to go through have gotten through. I think a few teams have flattered to deceive performance-wise. I mean, Portugal had a good first game. Tonight they were toothless. I think it's just to be fair. Tonight they were missing a lot of their starting 11. Like they're real creative players, like Bruno Fernandes and Bernardo Silva. But even so, like I expected a bit more. It was all very it was like watching England almost. It was all very ponderous, like nothing, no real incision. But fair play to Georgia, they were brilliant. Defended really well, and broke really well on the counter. I think France have been a bit underwhelming in terms of results. But when I've watched the games, they've created a lot. They just haven't been able to finish. And I think if they'd have just put a couple of those goals away, they'd have won 3 of 3. They'd have scored a lot more goals. Like, is it right? The only goal that they've scored was the own goal against Austria.
I think it was
until the last game. Sorry,
own goal and a penalty. Yeah. France are an interesting one because every time I watch them, they look so dangerous, and they're all so fast. It's like you play like FIFA and you come against a team that's got like 90 plus pace players up front. You're just like, Christ. So like they're like I say, I think results wise they've probably comes across that they're underperforming, but then you still got to look at them as potential winners. I think just because again they've just got such quality and depth, and Deschamps. I didn't notice Deschamps actually gets a lot of flack for being a little bit more conservative than he probably should be with the talent he's got available to him, but he's shown that he's tactically aware enough to get France through most of the time. Like I know they crashed out in the last years on penalties, but they've been to final in 2016, won the World Cup in 2018, got to the final again in 2022, and wouldn't be surprised if they should be aiming for the semi-finals at least for this one.
Yeah, tough side of the draw for them, but yeah, I mean they have just got a ton of quality there. The only other team that I kind of wanted to mention was like it's a team that I just always think perpetually not necessarily overperforms, but it's just like a gritty team that like usually makes its way to a semis or a quarter, and that's Croatia. I think like outside of Gvardiol, the new crop of players coming in behind isn't that good. Like most of the team are in their like late 20s, 30s. That midfield that has run the team for so long is it's falling apart. Like obviously like Kovacic is like only early 30s, but obviously like Modric is the big one, and it's like he's 38. There's talks that like he might be moving on from Real. I think he might stick around for another year, but I think he's pretty much going to retire internationally. Like I think unless there's a big turnaround of young prospects coming through there very soon, I think their time at like in the knockout stages of major international tournaments and even maybe qualifying for international tournaments might be kind of behind them. It's just a shame because they've been such a fun watch and such a good watch for like the last 3 or 4 tournaments. That it's sad to see kind of those the icons of that team kind of just fading away a little bit.
Yeah, I said to a mate of mine, it's like they're sort of stuck in the middle of like, I guess it's a transition, right? But they're stuck in that sort of period where it's like, like you say, the old guard are moving on, and there's this new. You're trying to build this new team at the same time, but also that, like you say, whoever's in reserve to Modric, Brozovic, and Kovacic just are nowhere near good enough. So you kind of have to keep playing them because otherwise you're not going to give yourself a chance. And like you even see it up front, right? They've never really been able to find a striker as good as Mandzukic was. Like especially like sort of going back sort of 6 years or so, where he was mega for them in that World Cup in 2018 as well. Yeah, it's like I say, it's a shame. So I do like Croatia. Like they've always been a fun team to watch throughout tournaments and stuff, but. Yeah, it just feels like they're at the end of their road now, and it's one of the things that happens in international football, right? Teams go through periods where they have a good crop come through all at once, and like say, look at Belgium, look at Denmark, have had it previously, like, and it's difficult to keep producing players every 2 or 4 years, right? So it's going to be good. Have to wait and see. And like I say, Gvardiol was like the only one really, but Croatia have always produced good technical players, right? It's just about getting a good amount of them all at the same time, I think, for them. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop over the next sort of like 4, 8, 12 years, right? So
yeah. See how they go. Hopefully, like I say, they've always been like a bit of a. I've always enjoyed watching them, even though they did knock England out, obviously. But it's like they've always been a good team to watch, just because the control game so well with that midfield. And like you say, when Mandzukic was there, absolute battering ram. What a guy. We'll go from the disappointments then. We'll look a bit more positive. Like, who's been the surprise package for you this Euros? Obviously, there've been loads of really good performances from a lot of smaller nations and nations who aren't expected to be getting to the last 16. But even though some of the ones that have been knocked out as well have performed really well, is there anyone that's like really taken, really caught your eye?
I think the obvious one would be Austria. Like, I knew going into it and just doing a little bit of reading up on all the teams and stuff that Austria had a really good qualifying campaign, and like Rangnick's come in and done some really good stuff. And I know a few people said like, keep an eye on Austria. They could really do something. Every game I've watched them in, they've been absolutely brilliant. And like they use their entire squad, like the whole 26 no Rangnick system. It feels like now inside out, and everyone who comes on or who comes into a game for someone else just knows what their job is, and it's so. It sounds great. It's so cohesive. It's a good balance to it. They stretch the pitch really well. Oh, it's fun to watch. Yeah, no, I think Rangnick's done a really really good job with them, and like I said, the biggest compliment I can pay him is I'm just over the moon we're not going to be playing them in the round of 16, because I think they would have absolutely battered us on current form anyway. And yeah, when you think that, bearing in mind they're missing David Alaba as well. I know as a defender, it's like difficult to be sort of like a star man when you're as a centre back, but he is obviously a really good player and been a really important player for him for years. But it's almost like they don't really need individuals. Like, they've got good players, but it doesn't almost matter. It's almost like the system is the thing that's getting them through rather than any standout individual. So yeah, they've been really really good. And then in terms of other surprises, like I said, I think Georgia, Romania, like teams like that who you would normally look at and go, oh, they're just going to be whipping boys for their groups. They've all. It sounds really patronising and like sort of rubbing their head, going, "Oh, well done." But like, they've all come in and just, like every game, they've just had a go. They've not retreated. They've not done what Scotland or what England have done in their group games. There's been an element of pragmatism to it. But like I said earlier, like when they do get the ball, they do try and attack. And they do try and seize the opportunity to try and score a goal. So they've been, like I said, those sort of smaller nations who usually don't really do much have been really really good to watch.
I think, yeah, I've got to go double down on the Romania thing, like winning their group as well. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Austria was one of my picks, just because of like you say, the intensity of the football. Like you say, it's just nice to see like substitutions mattering, using the full team. Everyone comes in, does like slightly different roles and or like can cover in different areas, but it's all like everyone's like in the same direction, playing the same football. And Marcel Sabitzer is like one of the early shouts for Golden Ball winner. He's been outstanding this entire tournament so far.
Should be wearing number 9 though. That is bothering me.
The attacking midfielder wearing number 9. Get a 10 on his back straight away.
Yeah, stop this woke nonsense.
Yeah. But yeah, they've been really good. And kind of like, I know they're a good side, but Spain have surprised me as to how good they've been.
Yeah,
like the last few tournaments they've kind of like stuttered and flattered to deceive a little bit. Like very ponderous. It's always been a case of not always, but for as long as I can remember with that Spain team, like possession for possession's sake, and like it's that Man City thing of like death by 1,000 cuts. Eventually they're going to find a winner, but in tournament football, it's knockout football. If you don't find that winner, then you're likely to get countered. And they don't have like the players that they had in those halcyon days, where they won the back-to-backs. The way that they're playing right now, with still like an emphasis on possession and like kind of controlling the game, but with lightning players out on the wings and like happy to play like a bit more of a transitional game and play the early pass through the lines and stuff. It's playing like that is a lot more exciting, but also it's a lot more dangerous because they've got some ludicrously good attacking players, especially out on the flanks, like just ready to absolutely like cut people to shreds. So I think they're tied. They picked up Georgia, so unlucky Georgia. Like I'd love for Georgia to get past them, but it's looking unlikely. But
I imagine.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'd love a Georgia Denmark quarterfinal. That'd be fantastic.
Vintage Euros that would be. Yeah, I completely agree. Like, so I had Spain down as like a team that will do well and gets like a quarter and maybe a semi-final. I never really thought they had enough firepower up top to go all the way. But even I say, when you look at Morata in like the games they've been playing, even though he's not like an out-and-out goal threat, the role he's been given is effective because it's just helping get the best out of those wide players. Like we mentioned him earlier, Nico Williams has been ridiculous in the games he's played so far. And Lamine Yamal as well. I know everyone's banging on about the fact his mum still buys his trousers. He's 16, but like he really is an absolute talent. Maybe getting a little bit too much football too early. Probably going to retire at 28. But
I was going to say I'll be done by 25 then. So.
Yeah, exactly. But he's a very, very exciting player to watch. And yeah, Spain definitely could. Yeah, Spain are definitely more than capable of going all the way and winning it, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of going on and winning it, who do you think? Obviously, like we've got the brackets now. Like we know the side of the draws everyone's on. Have you got any early favourites for teams that are going to run all the way through? Obviously, there's the one side of the draw which has got Spain v Georgia, Germany, Denmark, Portugal, Slovenia, and France v Belgium. So arguably 4 of the favourites to win the tournament are on that side of the draw. On the other side, you got Romania v Netherlands, Austria v Turkey, England v Slovakia, and Switzerland v Italy. I'd say like England v Italy before the tournament would have been the favourites to get to a semi. But obviously, neither of them have really performed that well. I think Italy have been another one of those kind of teams who've underperformed a little bit. But it's not. You hear it all the time. It's not a vintage Italy side. They've got some very good players, just lack a little bit of cutting edge, I think.
Yeah, I really want Scamacca to do well because he's my boy, but it's just like it ebbs and flows from him a little bit in this early setup. I think Spalletti hates him, but that's another topic for another day. But I think. So we mentioned Spain. We talked about why we think Spain can win it. Portugal should be like, when you look at the depth and quality in that Portugal squad, I think we said this before, they should be outright favourites to win this. But I watched like one full Portugal game, a bit of the second one. I didn't get a chance to watch it tonight. But in the first one, whilst it was against Czech Republic, right? They were competent enough. They got the win, but they just, again, it's a little bit like England, just a little bit possession for possession's sake, a little bit ponderous and not a lot of cutting edge despite the players they've got. They're just a little bit better against Turkey, but that's obviously going to help when they're kicking the ball in the net for you. What tournament own goals having, by the way?
Oh yeah, top scorer. He's going to come out with golden boot.
Yeah. So, but it's difficult to trust a team managed by a golden generation squad managed by Roberto Martinez, given what he had with Belgium for however long he had them for. Was it 3 tournaments?
Yeah.
And got as the closest he got was a semi-final, I think it might have been, in the World Cup 2018.
Yeah.
Like, it's difficult to sort of trust that he's got it within him to take. We spoke about Martinez several times. I think everyone knows what we think about him as a coach. They should be up there winning it. I will say Germany look really good. Germany started very fast against Scotland, sorry, and they may have like sort of tailed off a little bit, but they obviously got the advantage of the home support and stuff, and they've got a really good squad of players, and Nagelsmann's doing a really good job. Like he's showing why he probably shouldn't have been sacked by Bayern Munich as quickly as he was.
I think he's hands down the best coach, best manager at this. With Ranić, I think like kind of floating around there, but in terms of a manager where you go, why is he managing an international side? Like it's almost like going down to the championship, isn't it?
Yeah, it says a lot that Bayern tried to get him back to sack in social. So I think with him in charge and with the squad they've got, again, it's kind of similar to Spain, and I think this is why France are sort of like still in my back of my mind is sort of like I think France will go and win it. It's similar to Spain and Germany. I just don't think they've got an out-and-out scorer. I said it earlier. Like, I know they got Füllkrug, looks great, but like Havertz, is his job really goal scoring? I'm not convinced. Musiala and Wirtz, as good as they have been, they are still quite young, and they have come off the back of grueling seasons, especially Wirtz, right? Like the intensity of a season where you only lose one game must be. I can't imagine how draining that must be to then reset and go into the international tournament. I do wonder how that's going to affect him the deeper Germany go. But yeah, it's really difficult for me to look past France. Like, there's obviously reasons why they cannot win it, but they've just got so much quality of depth all over the pitch. Like, they can play whatever type of midfield they want, and they're still probably better than most other midfields in a tournament. So I'm leaning towards France, but I do think Spain will be like. Spain have got a really good chance of winning it, I think.
I could see if the results go the way it's predicted. So I think you could see like a Spain-Germany quarterfinal and a Portugal-France quarterfinal. I think France make pretty light work of that Portugal side just because of the lack of incision that Portugal side has right now. Again, like it could change the further they go, because they've got the talent to give them a game for sure. And that Spain-Germany quarterfinal will be a hell of a game, I think. Like, so yeah, that side of the draw, I've no real way of figuring it out. Like you said, the experience, the players, the quality of the depth, you kind of got to go with France. And Deschamps has shown time after time that he knows how to get through and win an international tournament, a knockout tournament. The other side of the group is a bit more kind of up in the air. Obviously, I'd like to think that England will sweep Slovakia aside and beat Italy and get to a semi-final against probably the Netherlands, like Austria, probably Austria.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like the winner goes to the final. But if I'm going to be completely honest, I could see England getting knocked out by Slovakia. So who knows? It wouldn't surprise me. I just hope that Austria make it to a final. If it's not going to be England, I want Austria to get to a final, because I think that would just be entertaining. I think Austria, in terms of the teams on the other side, I think an Austria v Spain final would be the best for football.
Absolutely.
But it wouldn't surprise me if it was France v England, or France v Austria. Maybe we'll just kind of like stumble our way over, and we'll get there and get absolutely thumped in the final or something.
I think that's why I wanted us to get like a bit more of a difficult test in the knockouts, because it's like, well, it's win-win, because it's like, well, if we get knocked out, thank God it's over.
Yeah.
But also it's like, well, okay, you've got a test now. Now is the time to stand up and sort of show how good you are. I don't really want that happening. Yeah, I don't really want that happening in the final. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, I feel like you've got a better opportunity to grow into the tournament if you face more challenging opponents. If that makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, there's a good chance we get. Am I right in saying there's a good chance we get Italy in the quarters?
So in terms of if we can get past Slovakia, it'll be the winner of Switzerland v Italy. And Switzerland have actually been pretty impressive. So I think it's no guarantee that Italy gonna beat them in that tie. But I think if you're going off like European rankings and world rankings and stuff, I think you're looking at a quarter final of England v Italy if they can get that far. So that
would be a decent test, right? Like, and we've shown we beat them twice in qualifying. We've shown we can do it, but again, it's us in qualifying is a very different team to what it is now. So it's
all very up in the air. It's gonna be fun anyway. Obviously, I think the quarterfinal starts. The round of 16 starts at the weekend. Plenty of football still going on. I couldn't believe it when I saw that the finals on the 14th of next month. Like, gee, I forgot how long international tournaments are, and then the season starts.
It's just
I kind of feel bad for the players.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's why, like, I do when I'm like, oh, we look knackered. I'm like, I understand why we look knackered. Like, I'm not saying, when people go, shouldn't be tired. I used to play like 80 games a year when I was a player. It's like, no, like they are playing way too much football. But yeah, it is a lot. I will say what I forgot, an element of what I forgot I love about international performances is I've paid no attention to like any transfer news. It's been great. Yeah. Like West Ham is all like an afterthought it's been an afterthought for the last like month or so. It's been wicked.
You're gonna be like that. You're gonna be like that meme from Community where Donald Glover walks back in with the pizza and everything's on fire.
Yeah, pretty much.
What's going on?
Cross that bridge when we come to
it. Right. Well, that's far too much serious and proper conversation for one of our podcasts. Let's get on to the final point. Who has been your least liked, worst commentator / pundit? There has been a plethora of options there. There's been there's quite a few that have wound me up that have found their way on Twitter. I think most of my Twitter feed is just me like sticking the boot in on Martin Keown because he's an absolute crank. But is there any guys that
just doesn't watch the games?
Yeah. My personal favourite one was I can't remember exactly which game it was now. It was like here he comes through. He's with the pace of this player, he gets it down the pitch nice and quick. He was just walking down the middle of the pitch and he wasn't being pressed. He goes and here they come down the right, and they were on the left wing. He just makes it up as he goes along. There was also
So was it one of the Holland games? He was criticising Xavi Simons and he'd been subbed off 10 minutes earlier.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. Like, Simon's he's not doing enough for me. He's not creating enough. He's like, you sit on the bench, mate. Give him a break. And there was another one. A game goes. It was like a completely just unnecessary aside of like, oh, there used to be a big running track around here. I'm sure Hazel knows about that. It's like doesn't I just went. There doesn't look like there was enough room for a running track around here. Googled it. Never had a running track. He's just made it up. He's just absolutely made it up. But anyway, enough about sticking the boot in on Martin Keown. Is there anyone else that's done your nutting?
And I include Gareth Southgate in the England squad in what I'm about to say. No one has negatively impacted my enjoyment of the Euros more than Lee Dixon. Lee Dixon is. It could have been the most like entertaining, like 5-4 type of game, whatever, and I'd still walk away annoyed because if Lee Dixon was on commentary, he's the worst type of co-commentator for me. And he's got what I call the case of the Mark Lawrensons, where it's why are you bothering? Because you clearly fucking hate watching this. Like you're one of these players from like an era that's long gone that you think is superior to what football is now, and you clearly hate watching modern football. So why are you bothering? I'm sure the money's nice, but for the sake of everyone, like you could pay, like someone could offer me like £1 million, but okay, maybe I'll accept that. But if someone could give me like a substantial wage to go and commentate on F1, I probably wouldn't do it because I don't like F1 or golf or cricket. So why does Lee Dixon do it with football? Every game is just like. What was the one there was a game where there was like the ball hit the referee, so the referee does an uncontested drop ball, and Lee Dixon just goes, "Oh, uncontested drop ball. Whose bright idea was that?" It's like, just shut up, Lee. No one fucking cares, mate. No one's that bothered.
Yeah, like he genuinely sounds like he'd rather be doing anything else. And when you partner him with his usual partner in crime, and Sam Matterface, who's just another absolute tool. It's a partnership that I could just do without, and I would have agreed with you until I had numerous games this week of Jonathan Pearce and Danny Murphy, the 1-2 punch of misery. Like, it was. Like, what did we do to deserve this? Like,
I think I said on Twitter they might be the worst commentary duo of all time. Like, I know Matterface and Dixon get a kick in, but like that is there's bad and there's bad, and that is what Jonathan Pearce and bloody Danny Murphy is. Good God,
Danny Murphy's another one of those like who's just unnecessarily miserable all the time about everything. I mean, if I was Danny Murphy, I'd be miserable all the time as well. But like, if like, why are you there? Like Jonathan Pearce, you put it brilliantly before we started recording. It's like he's only good for Robot Wars. It's like he's the perfect Robot Wars commentator. I can't do with 90 minutes of him screaming on my telly.
Just leave him with the robots. Just let him hang out with the robots. Do what he wants. Keep him away from football. For the love of God.
Yeah. So there's been plenty of terrible. I think the actual kind of the punditry side of it. Has been pretty good actually. I think that a lot of the panels have been really good. I've really liked like the last few games where we had Ange Postecoglou on. I think he's quite very to the point, but obviously very knowledgeable as well. And the mates per 90 is off the charts as well, so that's fantastic. But I think generally the panels have been really good. I've enjoyed like having Thomas Frank on them and like a load of these managers who never usually are part of it because obviously they usually help managing. People who actually know what they're talking about, and Frank Lampard. You've had a nice plethora.
Frank Lampard and his hairline getting bodied by Gary Lineker.
Oh my word. That might be one of the funniest things I've seen come out of that. That was unbelievable. I mean, I'm sure everyone who's listening knows. If you're not, just go Google Frank Lampard, Lineker.
Gary Lineker. Yeah. I will say, I actually think Lineker's been I just think the BBC punditry have all been really, really solid. Like, I think Wayne Rooney, despite the fact he's just struggles to talk in general, has been really, really insightful. Like,
the guy knows football. He's just not the most natural in front of a camera, is he? Bless him. But
yeah, bless him. But he's been really, really good. And I do actually, I think Shearer is a great co-commentator. Like, but he at least captures the sort of the feeling of the fan watching it. Like having Shearer on commentary is like having me on commentary. Where I just sort of say, I'm just watching it and just reacting rather than actually offering anything insightful. Which I don't, when England is shit, it's quite therapeutic actually. But yeah, Lineker's been really good. I like the little segment he did actually about Kane after the Denmark game in terms of sort of because it's the most Lineker's obviously he's a presenter, so he's usually quite neutral. But obviously when it's England, he does offer up his opinion a lot more. But I thought how he spoke about Kane and what he needs to be doing more in terms of how leading from the front and stuff, I actually thought was really, really insightful. So he's been really good.
One of the things that I've really liked as well, that I've listened, like, obviously I've listened to This Is Football in the past, but like that I've been listening to a lot more of it through the Euros, and I think the stuff I've been doing through the years have been really good. And I think that's kind of like gone hand in hand with the enjoyment of the BBC coverage.
Yeah.
And I think the BBC coverage, like you say, has been really good. The ITV one does my head in. Like, they've got some really good panels and people who know what they're talking about, but they seem preoccupied with showing pre-recorded video packages and adverts. Like, that's all we get. Like, like in the hour before a game, is like there's no real kind of insightful commentary on the game, where you'll get 15 minutes. And then they'll go talk about something completely asinine for ages. But yeah, the BBC stuff's been really good. So.
The same thing with ITV, because obviously they got Neville, and like I used to like Neville as a pundit loads, like a few years ago. In the last couple of years, I'm really going off him. I just thinking he's just sort of turning into a walking soundbite in a way. Like, I feel like with Neville, he forms an opinion, and he just never moves from it. Do you know what I mean? It was like, so he'll just keep like repeating the same point over and over and over again. So it's like, he's mentioned he doesn't like Declan Rice as a 6 about 80 times already in this tournament. It's like, yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
He's obviously not going to change it, so just move on. Like, there's no point just keep hammering down the same point when nothing's going to, like, he's not going to move him out of that position.
We'll play this other 6 we brought.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Yeah, I kind of agree with Gary Neville. It's something that I heard him say, and I can't remember whether it was in, like, it might have been in an overlap or something else that I watched, where he said, when he started doing the punditry, like, he was still really knowledgeable about football at the time. And then, like, when he carried on and he became the England coach, and he obviously knew, like, he was way more switched on with the analysis of football and like the trends and the tactical trends and stuff. And he's not that anymore. And it's like, yeah, you can tell. Like, you can really tell that you're not as... Whilst I still think he has, like, good points and stuff, but I think he is Mr. Creosote arse, isn't he? He's always sat on the fence. Like, he's...
Yeah.
His knowledge of the current state of football and the current state of the game just isn't what it used to be, and I think it really tells, which is a shame, because I think he was good, but I think there's much better panelists and analysts out there. I still really enjoy him, like, on podcasts and things like that, but I think in terms of being a panelist and a football pundit and an analyst, I just don't think he's doing it, to be honest. He'd be better doing the Lineker thing and being a host. Like, rather than offering up his opinion on stuff, because, like you say, he just repeats the same opinion for 6 months.
Oh, and speaking of, actually, we've been very heavily praising the BBC for their coverage and the people they've had on. I can't let Rio Ferdinand get away with anything, though, because as always, fucking dreadful. And I think I just don't like Rio Ferdinand, because I can't really pinpoint anything that he said or anything particularly he said that's been particularly egregious. I just find him just so irritating. Like, it's because I think what it is, he's trying to be a pundit, but also trying to be like a YouTuber, down with the kids, like, influencer type, and also trying to be everyone's mate, like who's in the England squad. And it's like, you can't be all three, so pick one, rather than just sort of being like, oh, what's your insight, Rio? And instead of him just being about how, like, yeah, I know these guys, I spoke to them last week, and they're ready for it, and it's like, okay.
But the annoying thing is, I think he does much better kind of analysis on his YouTube channel. Like, I don't watch loads of his 5 stuff, but, like, when he actually does go into stuff and actually gets in a roundtable discussion with people, he's actually a lot more kind of, like, I don't want to say sedate, but like he's a lot more kind of reasoned with what he's saying. It feels like whenever he's on TV, he's trying to get people to click onto his YouTube channel. It's just that's what it feels like to me. Like, and yeah, I'm the same. Like, obviously, Man United legend, great player for us. Like, and like some of the stuff that he does, I actually quite enjoy. But him on TV, it's just it doesn't do anyone any favors.
No, especially
maybe just sub
Ballon d'Or. Ballon d'Or. Yeah, no, not for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, we've gone in hard on Keown and Dixon, and Danny Murphy's caught a few strays as well, so I think we've done our job today.
Good. And if that's not the point of this podcast,
we've done our civic duty, okay? But we'll wrap it up there for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll have another podcast probably after the round of 16, and we'll pick up there, but it's obviously all timing dependent. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. As always, if you've enjoyed what you've listened / what you've watched, give us a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, whatever you can do, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy.
Laters.